This video is for entertainment purposes only. Let's roll. Well, this is actually pretty cool. The shop's turning out to be pretty good, and it's actually making a nice impromptu studio. You know, the wood's done. I've got the grinder all set up here. It's like, why should I even plug it? Maybe I don't want to plug it in. Maybe I don't want to plug it in. Maybe I should just do knife making content and just, have a studio that's not functional. It's kind of like when they close down an old stockyard, but like convert the buildings into a restaurant or a pub. And it becomes an anachronism. This shop can become like an anachronism of a different industry, and just kind of be a place where I make content. I don't even make anything anymore or something. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and do some filler content here. See if we can help out Big Daddy Algorithm, and get the ratings going up here. So these are just some old knives that I did from the past, and this is going to be kind of an interesting dealie here. Because I got some newer style knives that I did. I got some knives. Each one of these is it's kind of interesting because I've done enough, and I basically looked at every knife as an exercise in every aspect, I guess you could say, of the craft. Some of these knives were made for retail. Some of these knives were made for an exercise of a certain part of aspect of knife making. Some of these knives were actually, two of these knives were actually made for me. One of these was made for me and actually wound up being a gift to my dad. So I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to dive in and we're just going to get busy here and show you what's up here. Okay, so this is another Comstock. Now, when I made a knife, okay, I went to the trouble to master the learning curve of making the sheath, whether it was Kydex, whether it was leather, I don't care what it was. I always supplied the knife with a wearable sheath, and what my theory was when the consumer got my product, in theory, they could put it on their belt and carry it that day. There are some knife makers who do not make sheaths. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Oftentimes they will have a card and they will refer them to a leather guy, and sometimes they get better results because the leather guy is more specialized and more mastered at just doing leather, and he can give the client what they want for that knife, what's best for that knife. As to me, on the other hand, I make a sheath that will hold the knife and the client can use it. It's nothing fancy. There's no embossing. I can't put their name on it, nothing like that, okay? And some guy, in fact, asked me one time if I would actually ship without a sheath. And I'm like, no way. First of all, I don't know where to source those little cardboard things that go on the blades. And not only that, but I don't know how effective they're going to be in shipping. And I don't think the Postal Service is going to really appreciate me shipping this sharp object that's not covered, especially if they drop the package or something. So if I'm going to go to the trouble to make something to cover the blade, to make it safe for shipping, I'm going to go to the trouble to make a sheath that they can wear too. Might as well just do it. And what the heck? $45 for an oleander on sale. It's coming with a sheath too? Okay, that's with the sheath on top of it all. Even at 65 or whatever I wanted, 60 or 65, that second price I went up to, was with a sheath. Sometimes guys don't even give a sheath when they sell one. Okay, I always made a sheath. I took the trouble to master making sheaths. Well, anyways, never mind enough about that. But this is an oleander. This is the sheath that I made. It was made from Hobby Lobby scrap leather, but it was still a sheath. It had a snap. It had a retaining means of retainment. And of course, the Comstock was the knife that would basically, the concept behind the Comstock was it just allowed the grip to be gripped in all angles. That's why I liked about the Comstock, and that's why I like the way I made this grip. And I'm not going to grip it because it's O1, and I don't want to get my grubby hands all over it and leave fingerprints in it because it's all oiled and everything, and I'm just going to leave it that way. Okay, so this one here was actually this originally was going to do was I was going to put a like a tech lock on this side and then make it to where I can like wear it on my side or wear it on a MOLLE vest. It wound up, I kind of think about it now, is that if I was in a locale where it was legal for me to carry this in my pocket, I could actually catch that on my pocket and deploy it when I pull it out of the pocket. But this is actually another version of the cat's paw. This is actually D2, and I drilled a big hole in the center just to kind of allow the Kydex or the JB Weld to flow through, or whatever adhesive I was using. As I drilled a giant hole to allow the adhesive to flow through, and I wound up kind of chamfering it down and drilling the hole through the G10, and I wound up kind of making it to where I can actually kind of grip this thing this way and shift it around in the hand, and it kind of gave my finger something to go into when I held it. It actually wound up being pretty cool, and I was going to take this to market. I never took it to market, never sharpened it. I might actually sharpen and put it in my MOLLE vest. I might actually make that the knife I put in my MOLLE vest. These two were actually what the heck was this? This was this is 01. I did not sharpen this one, and I did. Now these sheaths were like, they were just kind of like basic sheaths. I never really planned on selling these. These were those knives that I talked about that were exercise in a certain aspect of knife making. And in this aspect, I mean, the blades, okay, like you look at them, now that I look at them, it's like I'm almost afraid to admit they're mine. Like, you know, like up here, I kind of went a little too deep, and I didn't really blend that plunge in. It kind of went over. These are kind of almost a convex, kind of between a convex and a flat. But with these, what I did is I actually made a material from, well, actually my dad and I kind of got together one afternoon and made a material. We made this out of resin, fiberglass resin, and duck cloth. So this is like a homemade Arda that we made out of duck cloth. It actually feels real good in the hand. There's a guy who wanted me to send him one. He was overseas, and he just wanted me to send him one without paying me for it. And I really didn't want to send him one just because I didn't know what his customs agency in his country would do if I tried to send it. I just didn't know. I didn't want. He just said, well, more than likely it would be seized, and it wouldn't be a problem. And I'm just, and I'm like, I'm not going to send you something for exposure if you don't have a valid social media presence. If some people know the guy, but I can't sit there. I mean, it would have been interesting if I sent it to the guy and he did get me exposure in his country, and I did actually manage to begin to learn global shipping and shipping overseas. I was trying to get into that toward the end of it, but I never really got into that. Recently, I did some eBaying, and I was able to send some things to Canada. It was pretty seamless. I haven't had to send anything to Europe yet. It would be pretty interesting to get into that part of it, though, because it totally opens new doors once a person can get into global shipping and learn the ins and outs. Okay, this was actually pretty fun. This was actually a chisel grind that I did. This is another piece of Hobby Lobby scrap leather, and I like this one just because it was different. It was one little lone blue piece that was laying around. Like I say, the sheath is okay. I just make a sheath so I can carry it. Probably be better in a Kydex, but this is a chisel ground out a piece of 01 that I had laying around. It was just laying there by itself, so I just grabbed it and practiced on it one day. Eventually had like this weird finish that I put on it with the fork tip. Then I wound up putting it in the blast cabinet, and I wound up bead blasting it. But it's actually a pretty neat knife. It was a little high, and I wound up grinding down the sides a little bit more and bringing it almost to the edge, very very edge. It's actually a very functional knife. It's chamfered here on the edges. There's no spots that bite. I always try to chamfer my edges so it's more of a melted edge. Feels better than the hand. So, okay, so that's that one. That's actually a piece of scrap micarta too. I just went ahead and put 2 passes from the fork tip on there, and it actually gives my place a spot for the fingers to rest into. Then in the end, I want to put in that okie dokie BK on it. Okay, so this is made out of 440C. And I originally made this knife for my rifle bag. So I actually have drilled holes in here, so I could actually rip this off and do hard scales if I wanted to. I had like a wrap on it, and then I decided to do was I actually wound up, my dad was in the hospital, and so I wound up, I guess you could say, said, hey, we're gonna get you back home. It's your birthday, so I'm gonna give you that knife for your birthday. So I wound up making this for his birthday, and so with him, I did is I took the cord off, and I went in and stripped out the center of the paracord, and I wound up doing a wrap. And then what I did is I put leather down on it. So this is kind of like an American take on a Oriental style wrap. Instead of using shark skin, I just used leather, and I configured it like a scale, and I wrapped that on there, and then basted that with resin and hardened it up. And then in the knife itself, it's actually some of my better work. It's got almost perfect symmetry. It's stainless steel, 440C stainless steel. It's like almost perfect symmetry. The plunge cuts look like they came from a factory. First YouTube channel, okay? We're talking like literally, okay, 3 channels back from the Behemoth Knives channel, okay? And I actually made this knife literally from start to finish on camera on YouTube. And I actually, to me, this is kind of a knife. And I took of course, I'm going to pull this out. This sheath I did after the fact. But it's actually a quarter piece of 01 stock. What did I say? I made this in 2007 maybe, and it's a little bit of a bow in the blade, and the edges here are a little more pronounced. I didn't chamfer as much back then. The backs still have those waves, from the wheel bouncing on them. But the grinds are pretty symmetrical. I mean, really, they are symmetrical. And the finish, I did actually quite a few hours in hand rubbing this finish. I mean, this was actually a decent hand rub finish. They were all scratched like in a prismatic type of scratching with the sandpaper. All the way, even inside of the grinds, inside of the shoulders here, they were scratched. There's some, of course, some usage on the blade there, a little bit scuffy, but I did put a lot of time into the finish. This side's actually looking pretty good. And then there's a bit of a belly in the blade. I used copper tubing to fix the blade on there. Of course, there's glue on it too, but it's actually got a pretty comfortable handle. It's actually like a butterscotch brown micarta. And then I've etched in a motif here, which is like a Gadsden flag, where the snake's cut up in different pieces, and it has the abbreviations of the state. And then later on, online, I actually found a patch that looked like that, and I don't know if that was just coincidence or somebody made that into a patch. I mean, it would look very close to my patch. I'm not going to say if it was intentional or not. I don't know. It could have been just coincidence. Well, anyway, these are all the knives or not all the knives, but some of the knives I did. There's more to come. I need more filler content to increase the algorithm. I don't know how the lighting's going to turn out in here, but this is actually making kind of a cool little impromptu stage setting. And I might not even plug it in. I might just leave it here at the camera and just, put stuff on this table and run my mouth and talk, and just do that. I might not even make knives anymore. Why get my hands dirty? Well, I could just come on here and blah, 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 right? Just run my mouth. So, okay, well, don't worry about the haters. Just let the haters worry about you, okay? Just stay in your lane, okay? Don't worry about what the haters are saying, all right? All right, just like you're living in their head. Just live in their head rent free. Just do your thing. Just if you do your thing, that's really, if you just do your thing and you prosper, that's what makes them the maddest. That's what makes the haters mad, okay? So, see you on the next one.